This contingency brought to you by a Cash App donation by Modern Cathar. Thank you for supporting the channel. Agamemno Contingency, SPD Emergency. Space Patrol Delta is the 12th in an ever-expanding series of Power Ranger teams who have risen up in response to threats to the planet. Normally, Rangers are chosen by their strength of character and willingness to put others over themselves. But that has not prevented evil Rangers from appearing, or prevented good Rangers from changing sides for one reason or another. Usually I prefer to make contingencies for one person at a time, but given most Ranger teams share the same abilities and equipment, save for a few differences, I believe it's more efficient to cover the entire team. Unlike other Rangers, however, SPD is a specialized police force, with the Ranger candidates needing to earn the right to a morpher. This results in a team that is already trained for combat far in advance before being granted more advanced equipment. For example, the Crybots, a form of henchmen which the Rangers face regularly. They come in 3 variants of different command levels. Normal citizens are typically ill-equipped to combat them, and yet the cadets are able to dispatch of them without the need to amplify their strength. While clearly at peak human strength when in their base forms, they can easily reach superhuman once they've entered their Ranger forms. As seen here as one Ranger casually lifts a vehicle, of which he later threw with ease. At this point, they are far beyond what a normal human can come close to matching. Let's say I have some personal experience with that. But their strength is not the only thing affected, as their durability is increased immensely. For example, when this Ranger is struck point blank by a high-power water attack, the alien who used it once being able to slice a car in half with a similar attack, or when this other Ranger was caught in an explosion, the force of which launched her several feet across the air. And yet, despite sustaining such damage, they are able to stand once again. In an extreme example, there was once a time when the Rangers had found themselves faced against several foes from their past battles. On normal circumstances, it requires the strength of the entire team to subdue them. Keep that in mind for later. Needless to say, they were quickly overwhelmed, and yet even after taking enough damage to kill a normal human several times over, they were still alive. This is important to know if one wishes to subdue the Rangers, for if they sustain enough damage, they will be forced to regress to their base forms. When this happens, they are incapacitated as the damage they sustained has put a heavy toll on their bodies. But as I've shown, this is not an easy feat. That said, however, a Ranger's strength is rarely stagnant. Not only do they grow in both strength and skill with every battle, they are also known to obtain even stronger forms, and SPD is no different. One thing I've withheld until now is that the SPD team I have shown you are not the only Rangers of their world. In fact, they are known as B Squad, a secondary team of Rangers who stepped in when A Squad mysteriously disappeared. Even after all of their accomplishments, B Squad was still considered the inferior Rangers, and when a squad returned, they were dismissed of their duties, much to their dismay. Unfortunately, a squad would eventually reveal they had defected, effectively turning against SPD and the human race as a whole. This would lead to a clash between the 2 squads, one which ended with B Squad's victory over their former superiors. This victory was thanks to an upgrade they had achieved called SWAT mode, a power-up that not only increased their already superhuman abilities, but also grants them stronger weaponry, which put them leagues above what they had been before. There is one final upgrade available. However, this one can only be used by the SPD Red Ranger. It comes in the form of an armor known as the battlizer. This power-up is usually the peak of a Red Ranger's strength, typically turning them into a one-man army. To give you an idea of how powerful he becomes, I mentioned a time when they had faced several past enemies at once. In that fight, the Rangers were easily overwhelmed. Even the Red Ranger could do little. But after activating the battlizer, the tide was turned instantly. Not only was he capable of maneuvering with enough speed to dodge all of their attacks, but he was capable of defeating each of his opponents at the same time. Finally, there is one more Ranger I need to speak of, and that is the SPD commander known as Doggy Kruger. Not only is he the leader of Space Patrol Delta, but he is also this Ranger incarnation's 6th Ranger known as the Shadow Ranger. The Shadow Ranger is SPD's 6th Ranger. The giving of this title can vary, as not all Ranger teams start with 5 members. However, usually a 6th Ranger has some qualities that make them stand out from the others. In this case, it would be his master-level sword skill. Doggy also has the benefit of years of experience over the other Rangers. These are what allowed him to not only defeat the criminal he believed to had slain his wife, but also allowed him to defeat Emperor Groom by himself as the other Rangers fought in a small-scale war over the fate of the planet. Typically, the leader, if any enemy organization Rangers face are so powerful, it will take everything the Rangers have just to inch out a victory in the end. And yet Doggy was able to accomplish this by himself. To defeat a Ranger team, especially one of this caliber, there are a few methods that can be used. As I stated before, if they sustain enough damage, they will be forced to regress to their base forms, but there is another means that would require less hostility. You see, all morphers draw from a source of energy. Some call it the morphing grid, while others call it Morph X. But regardless of what it is called, this is a power source that can be cut off. Through the Wayne Foundation, I have been able to place myself into a high position as a backer of Space Patrol Delta. Not only does this allow me to better study Power Ranger technology, but I have also managed to implant several protocols from under their noses. If need be, I can shut down a Ranger's access to their morpher with a simple press of a button. That said, however, there is one piece of technology I have yet to bring up, arguably the most iconic to any Ranger team, and that is the Megazord. These giant machines are what allow Rangers to combat their enemies after they've grown in size, and the SPD Rangers have many to choose from. While I can disable a Ranger's morpher, a Megazord can be operated despite the pilot not being in Ranger form. I have a few ideas on how to subdue them. For example...
Yo, Batman!
What is it, Cyborg? I'm kind of in the middle of something.
A little birdie told me you're looking to take on some giant robots. I want in.
This isn't a group project, Cyborg. Never mind the fact that no one is supposed to know about these.
Kinda like I wasn't supposed to know about the virus you uploaded to my systems.
You, got a plan?
Damn right I do. I just need access to the Batcave and 5 of your vehicles.